Breaking news crossing the wire here. This is from ABC News with a report on that controversial IRS clash where Trump is effectively seems to be suing himself, but trying to abuse government powers. Well, this is completely unprecedented. The report is that Trump wants to use the suit, which he said he wanted to get billions from the government for, and it's against the IRS. Of course, his administration oversees the IRS, and this is what he wants in return. Over $1 billion from taxpayers that he would use to give to allies, including people who might have been investigated or even convicted during the last administration. That includes people who allege they were harmed by the Biden administration's use of the legal system. And get this, in a what sounds, according to the ABC reporting, like an effort to fund and embrace violence against police officers, Trump would want to use taxpayer dollars to pay the over 1,000 people who've been charged in the January 6th attacks. Many of them, not all, but many were linked to trespassing, violence against police, some, a handful, convicted of the serious crime of sedition against the United States. This is a breaking story, so I'm bringing back Emily Bazelon, who's agreed to jump into it, and Jason Johnson, who I mentioned is here, the professor and MS Now analyst. Emily, this is totally outrageous. It's basically a suit that a judge recently said might not actually be valid because the parties aren't really adverse. It was more of a Trump trick. But now he would be taking over $1 billion under the proposal from taxpayers and trying to give it to, among others, the people who attacked police.
Yeah, so we would be paying for this, us. We would be paying for relief for people he sees as victims of weaponization, and then all of these January 6 trespassers and people, you know, even who committed violence. They have been putting a lot of pressure on the Trump administration for this kind of compensation from the government because they see themselves as wronged. And so this seems like an effort to, go along with that whole idea and actually give them money in addition to pardons and commutations of their sentences.
Jason, this is partly a legal story, but it's actually something much deeper than just the details of this, of what I look at as pretty much a sham, a case, a ploy of a case. We've never seen a valid case like this against the IRS by a sitting president. I ask you more broadly, do Americans have to be concerned that if Donald Trump fomented violence to overthrow the election, then rewarded that violence by freeing those people from prison, now wants $1 billion slush fund to fund and enable and support those people who include criminal offenders? Do we have to be concerned that more broadly this is part of a very tangible effort to ready and fund the type of people and shock troops who could do violence again if he doesn't like the results of future elections?
Ari, I said back when neo-Nazis marched through my college town, University of Virginia, Charlottesville, and Trump said there's people on both sides. I said this is a president who is perfectly comfortable with terrorism as long as it's what he wants. And this is essentially a terrorist slush fund. The idea of taking $1 billion of all of our taxpayer money, we just paid our taxes if you paid on time in April, and giving any of that money to people who attempted to overthrow the government, it is absolutely nothing but a criminal empire. But again, we have seen this. Every opportunity Donald Trump has, whether it's weaponizing the DOJ, whether it's weaponizing ICE, he wants to steal money from the American public, put it in his his organization for peace or sue ABC. Every day he's hustling. Every day he's trying to find a new way to take money out of our pockets and fund the people who allow him to violently stay in power. This is just more of the same. I wish we had a Congress that was willing to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, Emily, we don't know the exact sourcing at ABC, but typically there are people who sometimes leak this kind of thing because they are against it. They're concerned, and they're trying to put some word out to see whether a few Republicans in Congress or somebody else would do something. Reading from the new report here, it says the arrangement would be a, quote, unprecedented use of taxpayer dollars with little oversight. They quote how Trump previously said, it's strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. You know, he talks about this like it's happening randomly, but he's the one fomenting it. And it also notes suspiciously, Emily, that this would be just purely partisan in nature, that any remaining funds at the end of this term would just be returned to government before Trump leaves office. So there's not even a pretense. You know, if you do a compensation fund for firefighters who were hurt, That's like a real fund. Of course, it has nothing to do with when the administration changes, because you help firefighters for however long until they're all covered. Here, it just says, oh, when he leaves, they'll roll it all up. It says the compensation fund is believed to be the main condition for Trump to drop the legal actions. And that while in theory it wouldn't go to Trump, it says entities associated with Trump wouldn't be explicitly barred from getting claims.
Super. I mean, the people who would approve this settlement work for Donald Trump. So that is part of why the judge in the case has been uncertain about whether there is even a valid lawsuit here. And then you have this arc where we've gone from, on the first day of office, Trump pardoned or commuted all the sentences of the January 6th rioters. At the time, he was making a very unpopular move. People didn't like it. But of course, things rolled along. Everyone gets distracted. There are a million things that come down the pike. And now we're at the point not just of sending people home from jail sentences that they received after lots of due process, right? Huge investigation by the Justice Department. Judges in Washington spent months and years on these cases. Now we're actually going to pay them off if this story actually comes to fruition with taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, and Jason, so it is another step where you see that Trump is quite literally a pro-violence and anti-police president. When it's, as you said, just the targets that he prefers.
And Ari, this is not happening in a vacuum. In the last week and a half, as we've seen voting rights absolutely decimated across this country, the president has also said he basically wants to build up an election army. Well, what better people could you be paying off than former January 6th terrorists, and they are terrorists, to pay them money and then deploy them to various states across the country to intimidate, harass, and very possibly steal votes if he does not like the outcome for this fall. None of these things are hard to predict. The problem is, when will anybody in the Justice Department, whether you're a Trump appointee or not, when will Democrats say we're going to stop everything? When will the Rand Pauls of the world, people who actually care about functional democracy, say this is too much and put up a stop to even the suggestion of something like this happening?